there we go. It's not highly recommended to keep playing the same lick over and over again, and as a result, you know, that lick definitely outstayed its welcome as we played nothing but that lick for a 12-bar blues. But as a practice exercise, that's a really good practice exercise for you to do. We started off playing it absolutely straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I just started to mess with the rhythm a little bit, like we did when we just played through the scale. Lick number 2 is quite a bit of a step up from lick number 1. It involves two techniques that we haven't looked at yet, but you'll want to get very good at if you're interested in improvising and playing some lead guitar. First of all, this lick comes straight down the pentatonic scale from the 1st string 5th fret. Coming down the scale, then, if you practice the scale in both directions, you'll be happy with this. 5, 8, 5, 7. Now, staying on the 3rd string 7th fret, we're going to bend that a half step. That means we bend it the equivalent of 1 fret from there to there. So we bend till we hear that note. If you bend a bit further than that, hey, we're playing the blues, it's all good, it won't matter. We want to bend and release. Now, the tab shows a pull-off now to the 5th fret. And that's what I was doing. So you'd bend, with one pick, you'd bend, release, pull off, as that 3rd finger yanks down to pluck the string. However, if you're not comfortable with pull-offs, just pick that 5th fret note, that'll be fine too. If you want to pick that, that's fine. And then we finish on the 4th string, 7, 5, 7. As you practice that, I want you to notice that the bend, release and coming to the 5th fret is played more quickly than the other notes. You see what I mean by that? And notice as well that you can play that lick over any of the chords in a 12-bar blues. As long as we're in the key of A, you probably noticed that even as the chord changed, that lick still sounded good. That leaves us with 2 more licks that we want to have a look at today. Lick number 3 is going to go like this. Once again, you'll have noticed there that although that lick definitely again outstayed its welcome, it did sound fine over any of the chord changes. So you can use that lick anywhere in your 12-bar blues in A, and it's going to sound great. It's a little bit more difficult, but I hope you're noticing, as with all these licks, that all the notes are coming out of the scale pattern that was the very first thing we learnt. We're just picking different notes in a different order to create different sounds. All out of the scale. Now this one is coming up the scale, but starting from the 4th string at the 7th fret, and we come up the next, we pluck that and come up the next 4 notes. So 7, 5 of the 3rd, 7 of the 3rd, 5 of the 2nd. Now we've got a little tricky thing that you're going to hit a lot in the minor pentatonic scale. We want to bend and release the 2nd string at the 8th fret. Now some guitarists will use the same finger that they use to play the scale and drop the little finger in there with a supporting finger. We always want a supporting finger to bend, and they'll bend with a little finger. Not my favourite way of passing the time, I've got to say. If you can do it, then great, it can only help you. But I am going to twist the hand a little bit sideways on and drop the third finger in there with the middle finger supporting it and bend using those fingers. Bending and releasing at the 8th fret, reaching back to the 5th fret, still keeping that same acute hand angle so that the finger can drop back to 5. Otherwise, if your hand's too straight on, that finger's going to drop onto 6, and trust me, you don't want that. So bend and release 8, back to 5, then come back to 8 again, and here's another tricky thing if you haven't done it before. We're going to bend that a full step and hold it up. A full step is the equivalent of 2 frets, so we're going to bend 8 until we hear the same pitch as the 10th fret, and hold it there. Like that. You'll have noticed I put some distortion on my guitar this time because I want that last note to ring, and it'll sustain better with a bit of distortion. Having said that, something I should probably have said at the very beginning, I'm playing this stuff on an electric, but all this stuff works just as well on your acoustic. Not so easy to bend an acoustic. Okay, we've got one more lick to look at. Let's check it out. Lick number 4. Just playing that one twice round because you've got the idea now that you can keep playing the same lick across the whole 12 bar. I don't recommend it. We'll talk about how to turn this stuff into a solo as one of our next little lessons. But that was not too bad, that one, except notice that we had a few slides. We started on the 3rd string and we're just coming down the scale, 4 notes. Then the next note we want is actually the next note in the descending scale, in other words the 5th string, 5th fret. But it sounds good if we slide into it, so I let my hand come back to the 3rd fret of the 5th string and approach the 5th fret with a slide. Now with either your 3rd finger or your little finger get 8 of the 6th string, and then your 1st finger is in position to slide from the 5th fret to the 7th fret to finish that lick off. If I do that, by the way, when we've done the slide up to 7, we've slid our hand out of position because we really want the 1st finger always to be controlling the 5th fret when we're playing an A minor pentatonic. So as soon as I've played that note and I want to stop it, I'm ready to move to something else, I'm going to immediately move the 1st finger back to somewhere over the 5th fret so I feel like I'm in my home position again, where I feel comfortable, I know where the fingers need to go. Well, that about wraps it up for our very first look at using the minor pentatonic scale. The way to take this forward now is get familiar with the scale so that you always know which notes are correct, because you can play any of the ones out of the scale, but you've got to know the scale well enough to know which notes are going to sound good. And then take a look at our first licks and try to use them in a real solo over a jam track, a blues in A, or any track in the key of A minor. And I used the blues, didn't I, to demonstrate those licks, but I'm going to leave you now with all 4 of our first licks demonstrated over a completely different sounding track. This is a piece of pop rock in the key of A minor, and you're going to hear how these same licks that sounded great on the blues sound great as well, but completely different in a track like this in A minor.